Let us get into the game. Now, because this tournament's a while ago, I don't remember the exact decks of everybody. I know myself, I brought German Britain handlock, as I call it. It's a draw denial control, essentially. So I brought German Britain handlock, Britain German handlock, and Soviet Italy control. So I just have a very control lineup that's meant to target control decks that aren't running a ton of draw and aggro. And then Kato has Japan, Poland, legions, Soviet Germany, anti-air control, and I forgot what his Britain deck was. Might have been air, might have been ram. But getting into game one, it's Soviet Italy control versus Japan, Poland, legions. This game is going to be a slog. Soviet control was the number one, well, Soviet Italy control was the number one counter to Japan, France resistance, but Japan, Poland has a lot more removal in the form of the uprisings, and it has a lot more threats, so you can't be quite as liberal as at throwing things out onto the board as you could be against the old Japan, France resistance deck. And if you're looking at this mulligan, essentially never keep Heroes of the Soviet Union. Mobile defense is really good for taking out early plan West, because even if they get an intel off, you can still just trade into 2 legions. First Rifles is just one of the best cards in the game to play on curve, and 52k, this is to take out any Karases, or combine with a sickle to take out an early key, etc. 52k is just very good against Japan, Poland. So I think this mulligan from myself, perfectly fine. The mulligan from Kato, it's much more complicated, because with his type of deck, you're really waiting for those turn 4, turn 5, like 2-card combos. Like Plan West with an intel card, or like stick a Karas behind legions. So here, I'm not familiar enough with the deck to know exactly what the mulligan is, but I would say throw away Agency Africa, throw away Sendai. Honorable Death is very good because it can take out a KP, can take out First Rifles, can take out just about anything in my deck. An Underground State is generally just a really good card, and you might want to keep Tar now for threat generation. But I would definitely send back Agency Africa and Sendai, and I'd probably send back Tar now. You're looking for a Plan West. I think if he keeps the 2 on the far right, it's fine. I think if he full mulligans this hand, it's also fine. He decides to full keep the hand. I think that's definitely a mistake. I'm not sure what the Sendai is supposed to be doing when you already have Underground State and Honorable Death. The Honorable Death kills every single card in my deck but 1, and the Underground State will just buy back any tempo. And the Sendai has just no synergies. But he draws Plan West first card, so I guess it all works out. That is a very unfortunate pause. Yeah, it's early in the morning. I'm eating breakfast. So we just pass back and forth. He's saving the Agency Africa to buff legions or trigger Tar now. And my hand is just entirely responsive at the moment. Plan West on curve. So here I have the choice between First Rifles or Mobile Defense. This Mobile Defense offers like a pretty good option at dealing, just like instantly removing these 2 legions. And the First Rifles is just insane on curve. I think both of these options are fine. Knowing his deck list, Mobile Defense can get punished a little harder if he has like Desperate Measures, double move up. On the other hand, if I play First Rifles and he has Underground State, that's a massive tempo swing. So I think I would just go Underground or Mobile Defense here. but I think there is an argument for both. As you can see here, I'm just opening his deck list. It's open deck list. We're allowed doing this. I know some people have been like, oh, Jking is clearly cheating. No, we're allowed looking at their deck lists. And I end up going for the mobile defense. As a general rule, playing Mare Nostrum without attacking, being able to attack with the unit on the same turn is almost always a bad idea. There's a few exceptions, like if you're against aggro and you need to play it on a guard unit, hope they trade just to survive. So, Agency Africa, he gets my Dechima instead of my 2 Mare Nostrums. That is incredibly fortunate for him. And chooses not to play an honorable death. A little weird. I mean, I guess he's just sacrificing the legions. His hand's very good, so he doesn't need the legions. The choice to play Takasagi over Key here is a little odd. I would have just immediately slapped the Key, because I'm going into 6 credits, which means I can't do Partisan's Red Banner, something like that. I can't do Dechima. I could do Lion for a day, but then I'm doing Lion for a day pass, or maybe Lion for a day 2-drop, in which case you've essentially lost no tempo, and then you can do Takasagi. And, of course, if he plays Key, there's a good chance I do not have an answer for it. Key triggers, he forces me to draw 2, he draws 1, and then he has a 6-5 plane on the board. So, all around, I think playing Key here, significantly better than Takasagi. Takasagi just does not develop the board enough. Here I have a couple different options. I mean, First Rifles is just the bigger unit than T60. However, T60 will give me a... The point of playing T60 here is that I get the T34 85, or not 85, just the T34, which can potentially kill this Takasagi, can be combined with Mare Nostrum to start healing for 6. These Mare Nostrums are one of the best units in the deck for them to be played on is the T34. And if it's going to get bounced, it doesn't actually matter which one I play, because they're both 4-credit guard with no deployment effect. Now the question is here is, do I play Engineer Battalion as well? The answer is probably. He has a bit of force to draw in the deck, so I should take the opportunity to just get a card out of my hand, even if he kills it immediately. Now I'm checking the deck again, and Engineer Battalion. And it's fine that he can kill this immediately. So here, Kato has a lot of options. His hand is literally full. I still think playing Key here is really good. Again, I'm still 1 credit off being able to do Partisans with it. You could even do Key double Honorable Death, which would force me up to 9 cards. I mean, maybe you don't want me to draw because you're worried about me drawing into a line for a day. But it's not like this Key has burst potential, so if I have line for a day, you would rather... Like, you'd be fine with it hitting Key, especially with Tarnow in hand. If you could get me to play Lion for a day on Key rather than Tarnow, that's significantly pushing like what your deck is trying to do. So I would still just play Key. The question is it Key double Honorable Death, Key 1 Honorable Death, or Key no Honorable Death? Okay, well, you certainly want to play at least 1. And I think you'd want to play 1 on the tank. I think I would just do Key double Honorable Death, to be honest. I mean, there's a good chance your Key dies, but... Because if he had actually played the second Honorable Death here, I would have milled a card, because I get drawn 1 card by the Honorable Death, the T34 goes to hand, and then I do my natural draw, which be my 10th card. So we could have actually milled here. And generally speaking, milling is pretty good. Line for a day. I mean, it was pretty easy. This key needs to go. The question is, line for a day, anything else? I do not like this. I should just line for a day. I'm being way too greedy. Like, I have Dachima in hand, so it's not like this is my only removal. I think my idea behind this was that my deck lacks draw, and I'm fine if I have drawn 2 cards off of key, because I thought that I have enough health gain to win in fatigue regardless. So just get 2 cards out of my hand, he draws me 2, and then I can kill key the next turn. Unfortunately, the reason that is a terrible idea is his deck has a ton of forced draw and a ton of bounce. So, of course, here, this is a very easy turn. Do Underground State, do Honorable Death, and hit me in the face with 6. So, this loses me the T34, mills me 2 cards. So, that's a ton of value down. I'm down T34, 2 T34s and a T60. By the sword, I mean, at this point, it's kind of a fine draw. And now the Dachima comes out. And I mean, Dachima here is fine. He's down both Honorable Deaths, and if he plays Underground State on my Dachima, that's perfectly fine. But it was that one pretty big mistake on that turn. Here, he's getting to the point where he is able to do almost any 2-card combo he wants. Like, for example, he could do Tarnau Keras. The problem is he wouldn't get his Legions because his support line would be full. So you probably want to be moving up. You could do move up Takasagi Keras. Because it's fine to get the Keras down early, because it's replacing itself in hand with Intel cards, and it creates a threat on the board that needs to be answered. I don't think you want to Underground State. Sendai doesn't do enough. Everything else is kind of a waste of a turn. There's a good chance that if you play Tarnau, it just dies immediately. So, yeah, I like Keras, move up Takasagi. Potentially even move up both. This is a very odd play to me. You're letting Tarnau die fairly easily. You're leaving the bomber not protected, and you're not getting an extra Legions. Here I have a couple options. I now have the Sickle, but I think at the end of the day, the best option is to do 52k line for a day to take out the Tarnau and take out the Keras. Just limit the amount of like card generation and threat generation he has, and that's exactly what I do. I mean, I think this turn's fairly simple. Is that a redeployment in hand? I think that's redeployment. I wouldn't even mind playing redeployment here. This hand's not looking great. Probably want to get the Takasaki up. This is a very odd choice. I'm not really... I guess the point of not moving up the Legions is that it dies to Sickle. But you could have moved up and played the Intel card. Not a huge fan of this. But it's control mirrors. Control mirrors are highly complicated. It's entirely possible that there's a line of play he's thinking that as to why he's not doing it. here, I could just play 2 Bologna regiments, or a Bologna regiment first rifles. Um, I definitely don't want to throw anything into this Takasagi if it's dying on his side of the board. And just the nature of removal in his deck, if I play down Bologna first rifles, and he plays Bonsai, kills both his units too. To the Last Man kills both his units too. And I think I'd be fine with To the Last Man on just 2 guides. So yeah, I'd like first rifles, Bologna, pass. Don't need to overcommit to the board. I don't even go for the double guide. I just do single guide 845th rifles. I actually think I like this more because it's not like he's going to be forcing his way through these guides, and just limiting the amount of value he can get out of his cards is good. Kind of surprised he didn't Underground State first. You got an Under Legions on board before you start playing Intel. I guess now you can do Underground State, Long Range Recon. Okay, he's just playing it slow. I think that's fine. He's has a ton of health. The cards in his hand aren't great, but he can probably tell the cards in my hand aren't great. I can do Partisans, trade the Takasagi to make him discard. I can do Sickle, Naval Brigade into the Legions, double trade into the Takasagi. That would be pretty bad because it's spending my resources to remove all of his threats against a deck whose board clears hit the entire board. So essentially, if I do Sickle, Naval Brigade, trade into Takasagi, and then he plays Bonsai To the Last Man, I'm incredibly far behind. I don't really have a ton of cards to be discarding, and I've already seen one of my 2 draw cards is gone, the By the Sword. So I think I'm actually very interested in this Partisans dying, or using this Partisans on Takasagi, to have Takasagi die on his side of the board. It's also good because most of his most threatening units are Polish, and Partisans is not particularly useful. Like Partisans Ural on Tarnow gives you the Spitfire, but you can't do Tarnow, or Partisans Banner on Tarnow. So I could do Partisans trade, maybe move up Bologna. Maybe I don't even have to move up. I can just do Partisans trade pass. Well, I should probably do Partisans double move up. Like Partisans on Takasagi, hit it into the Legions, double move up. Discard Sendai. Remember, that Sendai's actually been in his hand since the beginning of the game. He kept that in Mulligan. That's perfectly fine. I think that's, like, it's average for me. It's worse than if it had hit Kawanishi, Dechima, probably Redeployment and Underground State, but better than if it had hit either of these long-range recons, for sure. He can do Kawanishi, Tora, or Kawanishi Naval Operation. And at this point, a Kawanishi, like, he sees my entire hand. He knows the Kawanishi could die immediately to Sickle Naval Brigade. And he's probably thinking he needs this Kawanishi for, he's running the Last Rites in his deck. So with that in mind, does he have any other options this turn? He could, I mean, I still think he needs to throw at this Underground State. He could even consider redeployment, because again, his hand is really terrible. I think I would do Underground State on the Bologna. Long range recon, trade into the A45th. So you leave your guy at 2 health, you remove my unit from in the front line. You know that if my unit survives in the front line, your Legions is dying. You could also do Underground State redeployment instead of Underground State long range recon. I wouldn't hate that either. I think both of those plays are perfectly valid. He decides just to float 11 credits. I think this is just wrong. Like, you're sacrificing your Legions, you're letting me heal for 6. I think I should go for the... Well, so the idea of doing Sickle here rather than Mare Nostrum is that Mare Nostrum can heal me a greater amount off of a different card. Like, right now I'd be playing it for heal... it'd be healing 4, because 3 from the attack and then 1 from the additional health. Well, actually, no, it'd be taking that much damage anyway. So, yeah, it'd be healing 3 if I played it right now. And if I got it on, like, an 845th, or, sorry, a T34 in the future, I can heal 6 immediately, potentially 12, 18. And I know he has Last Rites in his deck. I know he has Shiden in his deck. I know he has Key in his deck. So I am very worried about just dying. So I want to get as much healing off of this Mare Nostrum as possible. So, in that respect, I think the Sickle is fine. It does make Naval Brigade worse. Don't want to overcommit to the board. At this point, I have Mare Nostrum, I have removal, I have guard. So I think I should just double move up at this point. Like, he floated 11 credits. I can survive his planes. Finally hits Last Rites. I do not like playing Last Rites here. I'm a firm believer in saving Last Rites until you're out of cards in deck. And also Last Rites, like, you know I have Mare Nostrum in hand, so you know I have the ability to heal well beyond 16. And you can't do redeployment to get more Kamikazes in hand while keeping your Kawanishi, because redeployment will send Kawanishi back. So he passes again. I decided to just force the issue. I mean, if he wants to return this to hand, that's unfortunate. But I'm going to heal for 4 now, because if he doesn't have return to hand, then I want to be getting the healing off. He does Underground State, that's perfectly fine. Long Range Recon here is very strange to me. So he's been holding on to all of these cards, presumably for acting as additional draw off of redeployment. You could just redraw the card, in which case it doesn't matter that you didn't play it before. Or you draw a different card because of redeployment. Playing it now, I don't understand. I mean, it gets his Legions out of just immediately dying range, but it's only healing him 4. It's not triggering a tar now. It's not in his hand for redeployment anymore. I mean, I don't think this 1 Legions is that important. Like, he has Naval Operation and Tor in hand, so even if I traded my 2-3 into his 2-2, it would still die. I have quite a few options here. I, again, don't want to overcommit to the board, but also I do need to actually be proactive. I think I like Parade first, see what I get, and then likely just Bologna Regiment. I know he's down both. I know he's down a Sendai 2 Underground State, both honorable deaths. So this KV is significantly stickier of a threat. I mean, always Parade first. See what I get. 52k. It's an Elevate pull off of Parade. I mean, I still have 822nd in the deck. I think this is a bit of an overcommitment. If he just has a board clear here. I guess the point is that he can't do Underground State to make me mill. Detriment killed KV. It's the only form of killing it. Naval Operation essentially just kills these 2 tanks. Does it in the correct order to avoid healing 1 extra off the 845th. That play was very clean by Kato. Here, I can draw 2 off by the sword if I want. I don't think it's that great. But I also don't want to draw a ton of cards. So, yeah, actually, I wouldn't mind buy the sword here. Like, buy the sword into First Rifles. Buy the sword into Bologna Regiment. I also don't think his board's that threatening. I could just do Bologna Regiment pass, and then because he's playing Legions, he's going to be summoning, like, large boards in the future. So, I'm almost certainly guaranteed to eat greater than 2 draw off of by the sword in the future. So I could just do Bologna pass. Bologna 52k. So I guess my idea here is I'm forcing him to play out more cards. If he has like an AoE, it sort of forces the AoE because he can't deal 2 damage to this with both honorable deaths gone without playing an AoE. And I have the second 52k in hand, so it's not like I'm giving up the ability to deal with air units. I think I would have preferred just playing Bologna Regiment, because he doesn't have intel yet on the artillery, so he doesn't know what I got off of Parade. Because I played this, if he had been counting cards in hand, he knows I have a second in hand. So this is essentially just like self-intelling. And he can't really generate threats without playing planes. And if he plays planes, I'd rather have 52k in hand than on board. So in general, I'm not a fan of this. Here, Kato has to make a choice. I think it was just redeployment. Your hand is really terrible. Redeployment into something better. I guess his deck doesn't have a ton of draw, so the problem with redeployments into an equally bad hand. And he has all these like kamikazes in deck too. I mean, you could do like just Kawanishi, Kamikaze, Tora. Like start getting burned in, start killing my units. You know I don't have a guaranteed way of killing it. Well, you do not know if I have a guaranteed way of killing it or not. It's possible that I don't. And if you do Kawanishi Kamikaze, you could potentially find more Kamikazes. You could potentially find a second Tora or Desperate Measures. The downside of that play is it does remove more cards from hand for redeployment if you're banking on redeployment into winning. At this point, I think he has... I think this Uprising does like 6 damage, 5 or 6 damage. So it's not like he's undue threat from my board. He could even just play Naval Operation, move up. If it does 6 damage, he could even just potentially pass. I think I like either passing or doing Naval Operation move up better than going for the Kawanishi now. I think playing Tora here is... This is actually a massive and very strange mistake. So, here, I'm down to a 3-6 and a 2-1. He can save Tora if I play additional units in the future. Like, in next turn, I play more units. He can do Tora, kill the artillery anyways. And deal, like, just damage the other units I play. Or he can save it for Kawanishi Tora if I play a bunch of units with 3 health. Like, if I play 2 845ths, or 845th Fiat, or Mobile Defense, something like that. Playing out 2 cards to kill a artillery that's already pinned. It's not like he needs to kill it this turn. I don't have Healing in my deck. If I have Banner or Ural Factories, I'm going to be using it on the Partisans, not my pinned artillery. This just seems like a very strange overcommitment. You also have the like Uprising that does 5 or 6 damage, so if I flood the board, you have a response that's going to kill the artillery anyways. This is... Not only is this taking cards out of your hand for redeployment, it's also taking very good cards out of your hand, because Tor plus Kawanishi acts as board clear. Here I just pass. I mean... I'm not going to Naval Brigade a 3-1. I don't really want to overcommit anymore to the board. I probably could have just played Bologna Regiment, but I think the idea I have right now is if he floods the board, I'm going to Winter Offensive. It's almost certain that this Legions is not going to get buffed to the point where it doesn't die from Winter Offensive. This Decima has no way of getting buffed. So actually, yeah, at this point, I'm essentially certain that Winter Offensive will clear his board. He passes. I think that's perfectly fine. His hand's pretty bad. I now have Partisans Red Banner. That's quite good. I think it means I can start being slightly more liberal with my cards. Or I can just play Winter Offensive now. I actually think I'm going to do Winter Offensive, move up the Decima. So, oops. Here, the benefit of doing Winter Offensive, move up Decima, or not Decima, sorry, Bologna, is it forces him to act. I go to 18. I'm not really worried about immediately dying. If he tries to suddenly race me with a plane, like if he sees, oh, HQ's taken 4 damage and is now unguarded, I'll get out a Shiden. I just immediately can do Partisans Red Banner for a like a Kawanishi or a Kika. So I am not worried about planes. I guess the worry is that if he floods the board harder, I want Winter Offensive in hand to answer that. But with his limited hand and the way he's been playing, I should just have the read on his hand that his hand is not good. His hand is not board creating material. Because if he had Tarnow, Plan West, and Intel cards, he would have played it several turns ago. And he's down 1 Tarnow already. The problem with playing another unit onto this board is it just makes it harder to play Winter Offensive. Like, if he just keeps passing, he will eventually win. He has more cards in his deck. He has burn combos. Here, this is very awkward for him. And also why I thought playing the Tor was really strange. Like, for example, if I had done this turn earlier, and when I still had the artillery, here you could just hit Decima in Kawanishi, Tora. And then, also, we'd still have 2 credits left over to do double Kawanishi. He drops me to 13, takes out my unit in the front line, takes out the artillery. But, alas, this is the position we are in. You could just do... I mean, I think you need to kill this Bologna. I think you should just double trade into this. You can't leave this Legions on 1 health. And I would get the Takasaki out. It's just a very awkward unit to deal with. It's not easy for me to kill, and even if I can kill it, of course, the discarding a random card in hand is potentially disastrous. So I like this play by him. Here, essentially the idea of Partisans Red Banner is his hand size is small, his passing a lot. So if I can do Partisans Red Banner and hit, at this point I assumed his hand was, like the big board clears, like To the Last Man, Uprising maybe. So I'm like, if I had Partisans Red Banner hit one of those, also I can get a Tony, which is an additional threat generation. I think the 6 drops are Tony, Ginja. Are those the only 2? And of course, I discard Kawanishi, which is really good. Specifically with this hand, it's really good. As his deck as a whole, I don't think discarding Kawanishi is the best card I could discard. But in this particular matchup with this particular hand, this is by far the best discard. So now that he knows that these kamikazes aren't going to be getting buffed, he can just start playing them out to try to find cards in his deck that actually do something. So you're probably going to be doing Plan West long range recon. I would do Kawanishi, or not Kawanishi, I would do Kamikaze first. In case you get Tar now, because you could consider Tar now long range recon. But at this point, it looks like I'm just winning. I still have to worry about, he has Bonsai 2 Uprisings to the last man, so I do have to worry about my board just being cleared over and over and over. But he doesn't run Empire of the Sun. He can't just easily refill his hand on a whim. Here, I can't do Winter Offensive without losing my units. Well, specifically the Tony. I could just trade Tony into one of the legions. I need to pressure, though, because he has more health. He has more cards in deck. If I sit around, he will eventually either draw a board generation or threat removal, like board removal. The question is, what is the best way to pressure him? Probably Winter Offensive. Like, I know I lose the Tony. Maybe I can just do First Rifles, move up pass. But if he has Desperate Measures, that's really bad. Could do move up, trade Tony into one of them. Like, this Tony is almost never, essentially never hitting face at this point. So I actually like moving up First Rifles, trading with Tony into one of these guys. He still has one Underground State in his deck, so I don't want to Mare Nostrum yet. I also don't want to play any more units than just First Rifles. So, it does look like I'm just doing First Rifles. Trade Tony. I could even consider playing 272nd Guard, because he would need specifically double Uprising to remove that in one turn, and even if I just get the ISU for one turn, I think that's perfectly fine. So the last man gets drawn. So you have like 2 full board clears in hand. I would just pass. Well, I'd play Kamikaze and see what you draw. Redeployment here seems very strange to me. First of all, if you're going to be playing Redeployment, why wouldn't you play Kamikaze first? Just like see what you draw. Limit the number of cards, or like lower the number of cards in your deck that force you to spend credits on them. Second of all, you have 2 full board clears in your hand, and I have 1 threat on the board. So you're not under any threat. Like, you know you can respond to literally anything. And the odds that you do redeployment into 5 cards that just immediately help you come back into the game seems very low. Gets back Kika, gets back... Well, it gets to the last man back. Gets Kika, double Scouting Party. And Kamikaze. So that was kind of just like best case scenario. I guess he was just looking for 1 Scouting Party, which makes this play better. Again, I don't have a ton of experience with Japan-Poland. So, actually, knowing Scouting Parties were in his deck, I guess that play does get a little better. Here, it is a board, not a good board to Winter Offensive on. Should just do From the People, take out this 5/2 Legions, and move up. Question is... Like, alternatively, I could do Naval Brigade, move up. Again, this is just a really awkward spot for me. Because I know he has so much removal in his deck that I need to be very sparing in how I do it. And also, I know my hand is not great to answer if he just does Tar Now pop off right now. Like, I can barely respond to a Tar Now. This Legions needs to go. It's probably a little too soon to get the 272nd on board. So, I think I actually would just do move up From the People on the Legions. Or maybe I don't even have to move up. Maybe just pass. Because what the benefit of passing is he can't trade them in for draw immediately, and he doesn't have a way of damaging them himself. So it's limiting him on 5 cards. It's protecting my HQ against Blitz, like Shide and Kika. And now that I have Dechuba, I know I can respond to a plane. His choice to not move these guys up is odd to me. Like, what is the benefit of not moving them up? I guess I could... I don't run Confusion, so... And you've seen both Partisans be played, I believe. So I don't really see the benefit of not moving these up. Like, I agree with passing. Maybe play Scouting Party, but you are getting low on cards. Also, with getting them up is you avoid this situation, where your support line starts to get full. I think this, at this point, I'm just sort of forcing the issue. Force him to play Bonsai, force him to play Uprising, force him to play To the Last Man. I think I shouldn't have played the Bologna Regiment. I think I should have just passed. But the idea, I guess, I would be on 8 cards, and I still don't want to mill if he has the 3rd Underground State. So Uprising's at least 7 damage. Bonsai's actually pretty good here. You could even limit your draw if you're worried about fatigue. You could play Bonsai to kill your own Recon. Trade 1 pass. This seems very weird to me. Like, at the minimum, I would trade the other one, because here, if I have Sickle, you allow me to mill you. I guess the point of not trading is maybe I hit your unit for 3 instead of your head for 3, or your headquarters. I still think I would have preferred attacking. Also seems very, very greedy to not play Bonsai here. Because Bonsai instantly ends your turn. And, I mean, if he thinks I'm going to overcommit to this board, I think you're hoping a little bit too much. Just get By the Sword out of my hand. I know this game's going to fatigue. By the Sword, draw nothing, get it out of my hand, avoid like being milled, and I would just move up Bologna Regiment. Like, I know Kawanishi's gone, and I have Mary Nostrum in hand. If he plays out Kika, I can heal 6 immediately. I definitely think I'm playing this game too conservatively. The idea is, I think my point is that I'm going to win on fatigue, probably. So I can afford to just play super, super slowly. The problem is, I think I'm way too overconfident that I'm going to win on fatigue. Yep, Bonsai comes out. Ended up not really mattering if he played it this turn and last turn. Heroes first, see what I get. Pretty simple. Unfortunately, we don't see what my options are. I think my options were pretty terrible. I think it was like Cossacks, T-28, Engineers or something. I remember them being very small units. And of course I picked the T-28 because it can potentially give me an extra card. Like, stop fatigue for a minimum of 1 turn. But the question is how to best use it. Because of all of his AoE effects, if T-28 dies on the same turn as the unit it's pincered, it does not go back into my deck. So, for example, if I were to just play out Naval Brigade T-28 this turn and he plays Uprising, those don't go back to my deck. So I could just play 272nd. I know if he has second Sendai, I have From the People to answer it. It's a guard, so it prevents fighter just going face. Yeah, I think it's just 272nd time. And it's also just like a solid body that's going to stick a unit, which means that if he plays something out, I can do T-28 attack into it. course, send I pass. Plays reasonable. Kill, send I pass. Pretty simple turns. I should not play out anything else here. Yep, goes back to him. You need to play something because you have 9 cards in hand. Honestly, just Kika trade into it is not terrible. Like, you take 8, probably 9. Well, I guess you let me heal for 9 is the problem. Maybe you do Tar now. Problem is your only intel card in hand right now draws you 2 cards. I guess you do Tar now Scouting Party. That draws you a card, potentially 2, but then you do 2 the last man to avoid drawing off your own recons and hope that, like, I move up 272nd. But then you're losing your Tar now. I don't know. None of these options look particularly good. If you do Kika trade, you should know that I'm not going to play anything else other than my 9/9 heal 9. Tar now pass. This play, I mean, you have to play something. You don't want to play Kamikazes because you draw. You don't want to play Scouting Party because you draw. Shiden does nothing. Because you know I still have the 52k in hand generated from Parade. So I guess it's between Kika trade or Tar now if you don't want to draw whatsoever. Here, I think I don't. I think it's a mistake to play Dechima. I think I should just do like T28, hit the Tar now pass. Because T28 goes back onto my deck. So I've essentially just entirely skipped a turn. I don't have to worry about being overdrawn. And any cards he draws puts him like further into fatigue. The downside of doing T28 just hitting it is if he has just like a crazy intel pop-off, can buff them outside of the range of Winter Offensive. That could just be the way I lose, because I don't have a ton of removal at the moment. Although, with T28 hit it, even if he gets like 3 4/4 Legions or 2 4/4 Legions and a Karas, I can do Winter Offensive T28, kill it the following turn. So, I think playing Dechima here is just an overreaction. I think I should just do T28 into a pass. And I think if I do play Dechima here, that could be what loses me the game. Of course, my thought process behind playing Dechima here is he has 3 threats left in his deck. Tar now, Shiden, Kika. Shiden can be answered immediately with 52k. Kika is only a threat if I don't have guides, and I have a ton of guides. Here, he could do double Uprising, fully clear it. That's a massive overcommitment. He could do... Well, I guess Kika into the... Could do Shiden into Dechima into face. I dropped the 16. But you know I have Mare Nostrum in hand. So you know I'm healing for a ton with every play outside of double Uprising. And the question is, if you do double Uprising, can I... Or like, will you still be able to clear my board? Because you're down Bonsai already. If you do double Uprising on this board, To the Last Man is your last option. You know I have 2 guards left in my deck. I'm down both Bologna, I'm down First Rifles, I'm down 2 T60s. I'm down 272nd. You know I have 2 guards plus the elite generated off of heroes. Yeah, I guess double uprising here is actually just your best likelihood of winning, I think. I'm not a fan of this because, first of all, you're dealing less damage than Max with Shiden. You're dealing 4 instead of 8. You know Shiden can just die immediately. You know Shiden can die immediately while I heal for 7. So if I just play Mary Nostrum, trade into Shiden, I go to 23. That is well below the amount of bursts you can potentially deal this game. As well as my 272nd being at 3 health rather than 6 health or 7 health does not matter for your current hand. Like, Uprising kills it, regardless of whether it's what its health is at. So this feels like you're just essentially sacrificing Shiden, and then you're going to end up doing double Uprising to clear this anyways. Here, now that I draw the Ural factories, there's a few different plays I could do, because I can guarantee a copy of 272nd. I could do T28 on 272nd, trade into Shiden, Ural. I get an ISU in the front line, I get a Joseph Stalin in the back line, and I get a 272nd back onto my deck. And Shiden, of course, dies. That's pretty good. I mean, it guarantees him... He essentially has 3 full destroy the board cards in his hand. Or deck, I should say. So it guarantees one of those gets played. Problem is if he does to the last man and then double Uprising to kill my second 272nd, that has accomplished nothing. So I actually like T28 to stop the draw. Just throw it into the ambush. Mary Nostrum trade into Shiden with 272nd. Because it still forces him to respond with double Uprising. It prevents me drawing. And it might be a little too greedy to go for the Ural factories on it. Okay, spent a long time thinking here. So what I end up doing is 52k on Shiden. Mary Nostrum face. And if you notice here, I pass on 5 credits, which means I could have done T28, throw it into the Shiden anyways. It literally would have done nothing but give him the knowledge I have T28 and prevent a draw for me. And preventing a draw for me is way better than giving him knowledge. So that was a massive mistake, I think. Being slightly further behind on fatigue is a very big deal. And this forces the double Uprising. Of course, he gets Kawanishi off of Soul of Old Japan, which means the max damage he can deal has gone from, like, something around 13 to, like, 30. Double Uprising clears the board. I believe that was my last Mary Nostrum. And Kawanishi, the most you can deal in one turn with Kawanishi, triple Kamikaze, or quintuple Kamikaze, is 15 damage. However, I only have one way to kill a Kawanishi on the board left at this point, which is Naval Brigade Sickle. You know I'm running very low on cards. You know you can just do Kika face next turn, probably. Here, you know I have 1 guard left in hand. But you're also probably pretty sure I'm not just going to play it. You know I'm down both partisans. I still have a Mystery Elite in hand. So, I think just playing to the last man pass here was perfectly fine. It prevents what I believe is my last heal in the entire deck. It kills my second last guard. It sets up Kika. Like, even if I just play 9 credits, hit you in the face for 5, you drop to 17. Kika hits me to 17. I almost certainly trade Kika. Maybe I do Sickle Naval Brigade hit, you're down to 12. You just do Kawanishi, win the game. Like, I think if you do to the last man here, there's not a single way you can lose this game. And he does Kika trade into it. It's a very interesting play. Not dealing damage face with Kika, but you're saving it to the last man. Not a fan of this play. I think this just playing to the last man there was better. But this isn't horrendous. You still know you're going to have enough Kawanishis to just burst me entirely through hand. The reason I don't like this play is it leaves me with the Fiat alive. So my potential healing is increased. Okay, so I have a second Fiat in deck. So this wasn't my last heal card. Okay, so fatigue count is 2 to 10. Yep, to the last man here is perfectly fine. He still has a Desperate Measures and a Raiding Brigade in deck. As well as mostly just Kamikazes. So, and last board clear gets played. Time to just go face. Play on West. It's a very good draw for him. I think you just want to do Underground State. So if you do Underground State, Long Range Recon, your units all die to Winter Offensive regardless. You heal for 6. I guess you could do Underground State on the Fiat. And then hope you draw Desperate Measures or Raiding Brigade. Because that way you guarantee this 5/5 tank drops to a 5/1 tank. And then it can die to Tora. If he has any left in the deck, I do not remember. He definitely has Desperate Measures. He definitely has Raiding Brigade. So, yeah, I like Underground State. The Fiat, Long Range Recon. I think this is a very big brain play because it's playing to his outs, despite playing in a way that might seem counterproductive. Because if you Underground State the tank, the Fiat dies, which is my last healing. Okay, you have to play Long Range Recon here. I don't see the point of this whatsoever, not playing Long Range Recon here. Like, the idea is the intel doesn't matter because I'm going to, like, he knows every card left in my deck, and the stats on the Legions don't matter. But he's down both Tarnows. He's down, he might be down all his planned Wests. Like, this is almost certainly the biggest healing he's going to be getting. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't just take the heal 6. Because Winter Offensive, trade, Fiat. Well, probably not play Fiat. Here, I have the choice between Fiat, Ural Factories, or Pass. I'm fully out of cards at this point. Playing Fiat, I think, is just a terrible idea. I know he has Raiding Brigade left in deck, so if I play Fiat and he plays Raiding Brigade, I lose the game. Just instantly lose the game. I lose both my units. The only card left in my deck is T28, which can no longer stop fatigue since it's my last unit, and I just simply cannot win. If I play Ural Factories on this, I can't attack if I get a Blitz unit out of it. However, it makes it much harder for him to deal with. So I actually think playing Ural Factories on this is the best option, because I know he has Desperate Measures, I know he has Radiant Brigade, and if he's able to kill this 5-1 tank, it's very likely I lose the game. So regardless of what I get, I know he's down both Sendais. I know he's down all 3 underground states. He's down double Honorable Death. He's down double Uprising to the Last Man Bonsai. It's almost impossible that he can kill this unless I get a 6-drop with 2 health, which I do not believe exists. So I get the 4-3 pin artillery. He does not have Desperate Measures. That's like essentially the only way. I don't understand why he doesn't play Kamikazes here. Because if he can Kamikaze into a Desperate Measures, he immediately wins the game. He sees my entire hand. He knows I can't kill Kawanishi. This seems just like an odd play to me. And this is drawing last. Also, he's just healing less than if he had healed the previous turn. Like here, he's healing for 5 rather than 6. And it's forcing him to play the Raiding Brigades. Or not the Raiding Brigade, sorry, the Recon regiments. So here, I have a few different options. Of course, it does not matter what I do here in the end because of Kawanishi. Again, I do not know he has Kawanishi, because I saw that Kawanishi in his deck is discarded. This is Kawanishi off of Soul of World Japan. So it does not actually matter what I do here. Regardless, I'm going to die. I could do T28, Lion for a day, my own unit, to put it back in deck to stop fatigue for a turn. But then I can't win. So the question is, what do I do here? If I play Sickle, I just immediately die next turn to Kawanishi. The best play from my point of view is make sure this artillery cannot die. Drawing with T28 would be good. So I think I want to do T28, hit one of the recons, and I forget if this artillery pins units next to targets attacked or units next to units attacked. Like, I forget if I attack HQ if it pins the Raiding Brigade or not. If it does, I attack HQ. If it doesn't, T28. Attack one, T28 into the other. So it looks like it does not pin next to HQ. So take out this. And this I think is actually a pretty big brain. So the idea behind this is I have no idea what the last elite in his hand is. But I know the last 2 cards in his deck are Radiant Brigade and Desperate Measures. So what this does is, regardless of whether or not he plays Radiant Brigade or Desperate Measures, he has to kill the T28 first, which means I'm guaranteed the card put back on deck, which means I'm guaranteed the Blitz effect, and I'm guaranteed being able to play it, the pincer, on Fiat. So if he plays Desperate Measures here, tank goes back in deck, Radiant Brigade comes out, trades. And if he plays Radiant Brigade first, he has to target the 2-2. So basically my idea is the only way he can clear these units is with both the Radiant Brigade and Desperate Measures. And it has to put T28 back on deck, slows down my fatigue count, gives me a second unit, and then those are the last 2 cards left in his deck, but a bunch of Kamikazes, which kill him on fatigue faster than it kills me. Because Kawanishi is literally the last card in his deck that I do not know. See, there's Radiant Brigade, there's Desperate Measures. He has no other cards in his deck. I think if we got Kika off of the last Soul of World Japan, he would have won as well. Although maybe not. I think Kawanishi might have been the only card he could have got off Soul of World Japan for me to lose that game. But as you saw, I misplayed earlier in the game. I could have prevented a couple draws. Of course, it does not matter, because at this point, I would have needed to prevent a lot of draws to not be dead. um, Although, technically, I guess I would have only needed to prevent one, because Desperate Measures was the last card of his deck, but, like, I'm pretty sure... No, he could have played Desperate Measures if he wanted to. So, yeah. I was dead either way. Maybe I could, if I had played differently the entire game, maybe I could have won. But second Kawanishi of Soul of Old Japan was the nail in the coffin, and with that, Kato goes up 1-0. And I promise you none of the other games are as ridiculously long as that one. We're getting into game 2, and here we come to the problem with Kato's lineup, is he brought a Soviet Germany control deck, which was meant to hard target Brit Air. I did not bring Brit Air, and because of the banning format, is as long as I leave that deck unbanned, he has to be able to win one game with this deck. And I don't have air. So he has an anti-air deck, which he has to win with against no air. Which, as we will see, is problematic. Like it's very difficult, I should say. So, game 1, already off the bat, we see he has Burning Sky. Very unfortunate. I've switched to my Britain-German Draw Deny deck. Keeping Spy Ring is very good for him. Maybe he can win off of the value created by Spy Ring. Like, maybe he can get nukes off of Spy Ring. And then deal, like, 8 damage throughout the game and then try to win off that. Cossacks is good because it just puts on pressure and he needs to win this game proactively. First Rifles is good because, again, just best card to play on curve. Like, at this point, you could do Spy Ring on 2, see what you get. Cossacks up on 3, and then on turn 4, attack face with Cossacks and play First Rifles. On my side of the mulligan, his deck just doesn't run a lot of units, so Monty, not a good keep. Wrath Lightning a bit too slow. Wolfpack, I mean, I'm going second. And his deck has a lot of dead cards, so discarding on 5 is not that important. Tactical Strike is just a good option. Can take out artilleries in the back line. So I think this mulligan for both of us is perfectly fine. He's choosing to even keep the Naval Brigade. I don't hate this, because you have the 2-3-4 curve, and Naval Brigade is very high tempo. So maybe you, like, throw Cossacks into a C4th or a Gren Guards, and Naval Brigade on 6 to just try to keep that tempo and pressure up to get in that 8 damage and then win with nukes. So actually, I think Naval Brigade here is actually a very high level pick, like choice to keep. And if it's not been evident throughout the game so far, I actually think Kato is very impressive. Like, I think he has very impressive play. Like, I think he still made a handful of mistakes in the first game, but he definitely has a very high level of thinking in control matchups that I don't actually see from a lot of players. Like, even tournament regulars, a lot of them their expertise lies in aggro, and when they play control, they don't have this same level of, like, high level of thinking. Here he gets German research, which is potentially the worst one. Is the worst one in that it does not give you as insane tempo as the Britain one might. Like, the Britain one, you can go for synthetic rubber for crazy burst, or you can go for Bletchley Park and hope that I have, like, a low-cost hand, and you just entirely win the game off that. With the US, you can go for Pressurized Cabin to just get the Super Fortress, or you can go for nukes, of course, deal 12 damage, wipe the board. German one, I mean, you have the U-boat. Destroy any unit, discard 2 is good. It's just might not be good enough to win an otherwise terrible matchup. On the plus side for him is he has an incredibly good hand. It's just, like, all gas. And my hand is incredibly bad. So, worst case on research, but best case on hand. Here, just going to toss the Cossacks into it. I I think maybe playing Flampanzer could have been better. Downside of Flampanzer is if I tactical strike it and then go face with the commando, then you're going to have to toss in Cossacks next turn anyways. But on the flip side, if I trade my commando into your Flampanzer, you come out on top by a large amount because you'd much rather have Cossacks in hand than Flampanzer. Of course, I do have the tactical strike, so this ends up being the better play, but it was certainly worth considering. I pass on 4. My hand's entirely reactive. He draws Confusion, which is sad. Goes for research. Maybe he's thinking about going for a synthetic oil and then toss down, like, KV first rifles, yak in one turn. I guess. I guess that's, like, actually not bad. If he's thinking about U-boat, though, it's much better to just play first rifles here. So it seems like he's fully given up on the idea of pressuring me out, or because he didn't get the nukes. I had the commandos, which stops early aggression. Or it could be that he just had never considered the possibility of pressuring me out. That's something a lot of players miss in control mirrors, is they don't understand that, or don't consider that if you're in a control mirror where your opponent's a much heavier deck, or your opponent, for whatever reason, is just much more favored, despite being a control deck, you need to play aggro sometimes to win against more controlling control. So here I actually just pass, because I could Wolfpack. Like, it's a perfect opportunity to Wolfpack. I have 5 credits. But if I pass, it forces him to play a card. So this is essentially just like the same thing as Wolfpack. Like, this is forcing him to play, or else he will mill the top card of his deck. If I Wolfpack, he goes down to 7, and he can just continue passing. So, goes for the first rifles. Here, I mean, Tactical Strike doesn't do anything. Wellington coming out would just immediately die because his entire deck is geared around killing planes. So I think the choice is between Wolfpack or MI5. I like MI5 just because getting deeper into my deck. Wolfpack here, more credit efficient. I think this is fine. Hits the Jking7. On one hand, it's potential card draw. On the other hand, it's probably the worst card in his hand other than Confusion. KV here, and I mean, it's correct to go for KV here because you just have to play when you are in a bad matchup, you have to play a lot riskier. So in this situation, he has to play, like, Churchill is a consideration, but if he has Churchill, I'm screwed, I guess. So I need to play as if he doesn't have Churchill. And in this case, I do have Churchill. This is just a very easy slap Churchill. Here, he's choosing to just replay the KV. I think this is fine. Like, it's very difficult for me to kill KV, and this is sort of forcing that it's going to trade with the Churchill, which will let you do Naval Brigade. And of course, I do need to kill KV, so just move up, trade, Tactical Strike. Pretty simple turns. Again, he's drawing to 9 cards, and I know his deck runs a ton of terrible cards against my deck specifically. Like, he runs the Burning Skies, the Sky Barons. So I don't want to play the U16 because it's just going to make him discard whatever the worst card in his deck is. Whereas if I save it, I can potentially play like 2 or 3 in the same turn and force him to discard good cards. Here, Naval Brigade comes out. He could have erratoed first, but the errato doesn't do a ton on the board. He could be considering fatigue. I mean, with the amount of draw denial I have in my deck, I actually think playing errato first probably would have been good. It doesn't. Um, it wouldn't lower the number of cards in hand, and it would get another unit out onto the board, which, I mean, like, I guess it's an annihilation target, but that's, I'm not ever going to annihilate an errata. So yeah, I think he probably should have just played errata. Maybe what he's considering is that all of the orders in his deck are really bad and can't be played against me, or like most of the orders in his deck are bad and can't be played against me. So if he plays, he would rather play errata to not draw. And until he's in the situation where he wants to play that, he's going to keep it in hand until I play a bit more discard. Maybe that's what he's thinking about. Oh, of course I have Fog of Wars, so if he plays errata, it can get Fog of War. Although again, like, he sort of hit all of the good cards in his deck, like these units, the KV, the Naval Brigade, the First Rifles. So it's not like actually getting errata Fog of War would be terrible. Unfortunately, this synthetic oil idea never really came about. MI5 Grand Guards. Here it just goes for research. And yeah. The reason he doesn't play Flampanzer there is in case of just like, it could get annihilated to discard research. I could just play Carpet Bombing and it dies without doing anything. And especially with the discard, you want to keep as many hands or cards in hand as possible to avoid having this discarded. Here, I can't annihilate anything. Carpet does nothing. Wellington does nothing. I can MI5, see what I get. Probably the best play. The worry about playing this Commando is I know he has Confusions in his deck. So if I play Commando, it means at no point can I ever move a unit to the front line because it can just do Confusion, trade Commando into it. Or if I move Commando up, Confusion, trade Commando into it. Here, I could just throw a Sexton, which would just be the strictly correct play, because he can't answer Grengards and Sexton at the same time. Gets the powerful unit onto the board before the discard, and pins his 4/4. However, I run Ultra in my deck, and I know it's an open deckless tournament, so I know he knows I have Ultra in my deck. So I decide I'm going to pass here. If I remember correctly, I believe this is the turn. And I think this is a very high-level play. If I do it, which I'm pretty sure I do. Taking my time. There we go. So I pass on 6 credits. So I know he knows I have Ultras in my deck. And this is the first turn I've passed on 3 credits. And this is the turn I know he's going to play the German Research. Of course, there's Sickles in his deck, so I am aware that the chance he could do Sickle first sees that there's no Ultra and then Research, and that's perfectly fine. Like, I don't have Ultra. I know this Research is going to come out eventually. Maybe he just tactical strikes the sees I don't have Ultra and then researches next turn. However, this, in theory, should stop him from immediately researching without testing anything else. And I guess he forgot I have Ultra. Like, I honestly think he just forgot with the speed at which he played it. It's possible he's in the situation where he needs to play as if I don't have Ultra, but he did not stop to think about that. He just immediately went for research, so I think he just forgot I could have Ultra. Discards Commando, which is fine for me. Discards Lend-Lease, which is very, very bad for me. Because I also have a lot of cards that, well better than his cards, are pretty useless on their own. And I now have this 4/4 threatening me in the front line. And, like, for example, these 2 U16s do nothing. This Fog of War is not really good in this situation. The Sexton's just going to die to a hammer or attack strike. I could do Wellington attack it. I know he has a ton of anti-air cards. But I actually do like Wellington attack. Uh, if he does Sky Barons, I don't care. Um, like at this point, should just do W16 Wellington because I know the bad cards in his deck are air unit or anti-air cards. I would have liked to see Wellington that turn. Tosses Confusion, that's correct. Uh, he finds his 5-year plan, which I believe is the only card draw in his deck. I think it's his only card draw. Tosses Flampanzer. Um, I would have liked to see him toss Root Out or Errata rather than Flampanzer because he needs units to win this game. And I'm not really sure how much Root Out is going to do. Here, Raff it back, and then I think I should play Wellington because I have an air unit on the board. I'm not a fan of how greedy I'm playing with Wellington. Here, he could go for 5-year plan. He could actually just pass. I think passing here is not terrible. Like, if he just slaps 5-year plan here, the thing is I could have Ultra again. Like, you saw the Raff was off the top, but this Fog of War could have been in hand. No, I think you know I don't have Ultra if you didn't have it before. So, I guess you could 5-year plan first. See what I draw. Like, see what he draws, I should say. Because now you know I do not have Ultra. Or I had Ultra the turn you had Research and I just chose not to play it. He passes. Tactical Strike here is very good. Just take out the Naval Brigade. I've already seen KV go, so I know that I don't really have a ton of problematic units I have to worry about. Here, he can finally Errata. Red Banner. Not great, but if he can find his partisans, suddenly becomes incredible. First Rifles, I think, is fine. Yep, Annihilate. First Rifles, I think it's his biggest unit that costs 5 or less. Hits the 52k, which, very good for me. Hitting the 5-year plan would have been much better, but this is fine. And then I think I should do Fog of War on Errata. Well, it's between Fog of War and Errata or C4. Like, at this point, I'm running very low on cards, but I also know he has very few cards in his deck that do anything. Like, if you look at his hand, he has this Root Out, he has this Red Banner, he has this Confusion. He has a second Errata. Draws Parade. Flampanzer, not that good. I mean, if he can space them out, he could potentially overwhelm my board. But with Kyber Bomb Wellington in hand, I can essentially just destroy any board he plays. I think he really should have gotten this 5-year plan out at some point. Trades off the Errata to avoid Fog of War and pass. Here, I mean, I think I'm just perfectly fine passing too. So if we keep passing, he has less cards in his deck. He has lower quality cards in his deck. Eventually, I will find my second Lend-Lease. Refill my hand. I'm content with passing. I think I should just pass here. It's also possible I could play Grengards. I forget what's exactly in his lineup, but I've seen Naval Brigade go, and I don't think he has any other board clears. Like, he might have Winter Offensive, but Winter Offensive still leaves Grengards. Actually, Winter Offensive wouldn't kill a single unit at the moment. So I just have to, like, make sure I don't get blown out by partisans. So I think I could just pass here. Grengards, I think it could be a fine play. I forgot exactly what's in Kato's deck, and that really defines how good of a play or bad of a play that is. Sky Barons on Raff, very easy turn. Just see what you get. Now he draws with Errata. Yeah, pass. Of course, the risks, I have second Raff on the guard. He mills a card. But that's a very low possibility. And staying at 8 cards is probably fine. Bonian Sky, that's very sad. Like this, I have 2 air units left in my deck, I think. I don't play Honey because of Confusion, obviously. It would just allow him to play out a Confusion. Trade Errado to play around Fog of War. And Flam Panzer. And this is, now it's time for Carpet Bombing Wellington. Hit face for 5. Yep. So at this point, I see I can refill my hand with Honey Panzer H. Got a specific draw. And I have the opportunity to hit him for 5. I know this Wellington is not going to stick around, but it's a matter of whether or not he can deal with these units in the front line. If Trika ever comes out, it's getting Fog of War. But you might have to do it anyways. So yeah, you start with Root Out, because Root Out is coming out regardless. Root Out lets you do Siberian. This C4 literally can't attack, so yeah. I think playing Burning Sky there is better than Shika. Like, he's been playing around Fog of War this entire time, and then suddenly doesn't. Raph, excellent draw. And go Alt Face. So, he's now on 6 health, with next to no healing, if any healing. He can... What can he do? There's no confusion targets. He could do 52k and Burning Sky to take out this Raph, and then play Shika to stop the Wellington, and he's technically not dead. So that's 4 credits, 6 credits, and then he can do Flam Panzer, because at this point you can't afford to play around Carpet Bombing. You can't play 5-year plan or else you just die. So here, Panzer H is coming out to see what I can get. I don't think healing matters, so I'm not going to play Honey first. For example, I think Fog of War is just lethal here. Fortunately, I do not get it. I don't have to play Lend-Lease this turn. I'd rather attack with things. Honestly, I'd just... Okay, Lend-Lease attack face. Lend-Lease Monty. I'd actually... I think I'd rather attack face here. I mean, I don't think it matters a ton because, I mean, look at the position he's in. But I think it would have been slightly better to hit face. I know his only card draws 5-year plan. Second Root Out can actually keep him alive. No, it can't. Yep, and that's just GG. That's game 2 in the bag. And yeah, not a ton to say about that game. His deck is just very weak into mine. He had his shot, but I had Churchill on 7. And then once the Grenguard came down, his deck really just doesn't have an opportunity to kill it. And with that, I take game 2. We go up 1-1, and we go to game 3, my Soviet Italy control versus his Soviet Germany anti-air control. The mulligan, I'm going first, which is not ideal. Generally speaking, in control mirrors, unless you know it's going to fatigue, you prefer to go second, just because it's more important about having resources than tempo. Looking at his mulligan, I have a lot of 2-drops. Sudden Strike's a fine keep. I do not have a lot of planes. Sunback Sky Barons. Tactical Strike's fine. Sickle's fine. A45th is fine. The problem with that is it's just an okay hand. If you want to win this game, you likely need a more aggressive hand, a more unit-based hand, and sort of playing as if I'm going to have a bad hand, and you need to exploit that. So, with that in mind, I would actually send back Tactical Strike, Sky Barons, and Sickle. Keep 845th, keep Sudden Strike, and just try to go for like a tempo me out play. On my side, keep Red Dawn for sure, 845th for sure. Send back Mare Nostrum. I think keeping by the sword is fine, because his units are very small, so the only way he wins is by flooding the board with tons of his small units, in which case I'll need by the sword. Well, in which case by the sword will be more effective at finding the answers to those small units. Mare Nostrum just doesn't do a lot. So, yep. I'm thinking about keeping by the sword. He decides not to keep Sun Strike at all and goes for a full unit approach. Well, looking for a full unit approach. I think that's fine. I have 2 845ths, 2 Fiats, and 2 mobile defenses in my deck, so it's almost certain I would have found a 2-drop. What he also could have done is waited to see me finish my mulligan, see how many cards I keep. If I full mulligan, you're like, okay, he doesn't have a 2-drop. Or at least he does. It's not likely he has a 2-drop. Send back Sudden Strike. Or if you see me keep 4 cards, you're basically certain I have a 2-drop. So he finds his Cossacks. He finds Chaika, Flam, First Rifles again. This is looking like a very good hand for him. But on the other side of the board, I have 2 845ths, 2 Red Dawns, Bologna Regiment, looking like a very good hand for me. And in the case of my deck is just better suited at beating his deck, if we both have good hands, it means that I'm probably going to win. We just both play our cards on curve. This Bologna Regiment essentially means he can't, like, play Cossacks. Like, it would just die. Because the Bologna came out on 3, it means he can Confusion it. Or potentially Confusion my 845th and trade into it. Here I'm thinking about just Red Dawning the guy and moving up both units to the front line. That looks like a good play. I'm trying to think of situations in which that could be punished. I could play it slower. I could just do Mare Nostrum on the Bologna Regiment, kill his guy, heal for 4, pass. Well, I guess that would be all my credits, but between those two options, knowing what's in his deck, I prefer Red Dawn on the 845th, double move up. Like, just disallow him from being able to build in the support line. Also, if you see, I didn't actually keep by the sword in my mulligan again in the end. So, if you were to be able to build up in the support line, I don't have a way of necessarily punishing that. And I end up just doing the Mare Nostrum trade safer play. I think I actually prefer Red Dawn move up, but again, I don't think these are necessarily. I don't even know if I would necessarily call these mistakes. I think it's just like, looking at it now, I would expect that line of play has a slightly higher win rate, or puts me in a slightly better position, but I think I'm still going to win this game like 99% of the time regardless. And on his turn 4, just First Rifles. It's just the best 4-drop in the game. Easy. Here, I have a choice. I can go for Mobile Defense. It could just get taken out by a Root Out. It's a bit early. It doesn't do a ton. Like, just double trading into First Rifles to summon Second Rifles doesn't do a lot. So, here's double move up. I don't like Mobile Defense here. It just feels like I'm asking to get Root Outed. Like, I think I'd honestly just like to pass. Maybe play 845th. This also means you can do Confusion on one of the tanks, and then use the first rifles to kill the Bologna. That would heal me 8. Probably doesn't want to do that. He could do Confusion on Bologna. Trade 845th, goes back. Not a huge fan of that play. Like, it heals him for 4, heals me for 4. But it doesn't do a ton. Like, maybe if he had double Confusions. Like, health isn't going to matter a ton this game. It's going to... Like, his health is not going to matter a ton this game, is what I mean. Because he does not have comeback cards. He doesn't want me to heal too much, because he does need to kill me. But him healing does not matter. So I think in this case, playing Confusion on my T60 tank, or T70, I should say, and then trading it into the Bologna, I heal the same amount, but the difference is I have an 845th instead of a T60 or T70, and my Bologna, much more importantly, is on 3 health rather than 4 health, which means it dies to Cossacks, it dies trading into first rifles, it dies trading into second rifles. He does have the sickle to clean up, kind of regardless, but if, for example, this first rifle gets removed, he would then be able to just clean it up with the Cossacks. This play just sort of feels off. Like, it allows this play entirely on board. Actually, I suppose if you look at the outcome, in this situation, if you had done Confusion on the T70, trade, I heal for 4, then I do move up T70, so 6, 5. It would have resulted in this, it would have been the same result, but I heal for 3 additional health, because I get the healing off the 845th. And the difference is you don't have to sickle. So the question is, what's better? A 7 health difference or having sickle in hand? And the answer is probably the 7 health difference. So actually I think in the end that this play, it worked out for him. Like not worked out, like he obviously knew this would happen. But I think this play was fine for him. Gets the Cossacks up, and I'm at 32 health on turn 6, but he has gained board control. Unfortunately for him, I have the Red Dons in hand. So here, just probably going to from the people, kill the Cossacks, and play 845th. My hand's actually incredibly weak in terms of what's actually in it. I think it might be better to not play Red Dawn yet. Like, I have 31 health. This Cossacks can mess around for a bit. But if he plays KV, that's the only card in his deck that could potentially kill me. So yeah, I think keeping these Red Dawns for a potential KV might be better. He does have sudden strikes in his deck, so if I play Mare Nostrum on this 845th, it could potentially get sudden struck. So I think it's between 845th Pass or 845th Mare Nostrum. The obvious play, of course, is to just Red Dawn or from the people this Cossacks, but looking at how weak my hand is at the moment, if a KV comes out, I could just lose. 845th Pass. So if Cossacks goes in, I have Sickle. He doesn't have any buff, he doesn't have any heal. I'd take the ISU. Just pick the biggest thing. In this situation, Tomahawk does absolutely nothing, and I think the likelihood that Jking7 survives to continue drawing cards is low, and also the question of how good drawing cards is with your deck is questionable. So Mare Nostrum into Cossacks is definitely happening. Buy the Sword is a very good draw. So buy the Sword first, see what I draw. buy the Sword Mare Nostrum trade. Same reason I didn't red dawn this turn before. I'm not going to red dawn this turn. I can respond to the Chika with 52k. With the second Bologna in hand, I can actually protect the 52k behind Bologna. So that's exactly what I do. I could consider red dawning one of the Flame Panthers here now, but again, I'm not too worried. He doesn't have a great way to kill this Bologna. And even if he does, like if he has Sickle Naval Brigade, kill the artillery, I just immediately respond by killing the Flame Panther with a Sickle. And now he kind of has an awkward position. You could trade in one Flame Panzer or Rado, see what you get, and then set up for a root out. Like trade in double Flame Panzer or Rado, and then next turn do root out. Could do Parade first, see what you get, trade one Flame Panzer, and go for a Rado. That way you're potentially setting up for an ISU. So I think you should Parade first, because I think going double trade a Rado telegraphs too much that you have root out, and I don't think root out is a particularly crazy comeback in that situation. Parade first hits KV, which is easily the best card in this deck. And honestly, you should probably just slap KV. I could have Decima, but does trade root out. Not a huge fan of this play. Sickle the 2-1 Flame Panzer. Play T60. Should move up Bologna Regiment. Not entirely sure why I didn't move up Bologna Regiment. His Cossacks is gone, so it's not really a worry about it just dying immediately. He has no Blitz planes in his deck. Is there any, Confusion Partisans shenanigans? So start with research, probably. You're likely going to be doing Spyring Arado KV. You could do Arado Spyring KV, Spyring Arado KV. Probably Arado first, because you don't have the credits to research tier 6, or tier 2, the 6k option. If you had 11 credits, you would Spyring first, because, for example, if you get the US research, you could do Spyring 3k research, 6k research. But you don't have enough credits to do that, so Arado first, see what you get. Not sure why you didn't Spyring before KV. And this is the exact reason why I kept double Red Dawn, is I still don't have, I do have Partisans Ural at this point. But I think double Red Dawn on KV, move up, kill the Arado. Sounds fine, that's 10 credits. Keeping Partisans Ural does look much like it's a play that fits in a greater range of situations. Because I know he has a unit off of Heroes of the Soviet Union. I know he hasn't played that unit yet. If that unit is 272nd and he plays it, Partisans Ural is incredibly insane, like just game-winningly insane. So just remove his board. He gets German research a second time, which is actually probably the best here. Britain research might be slightly better because of Bletchley Park, but it is not a guarantee of how good Bletchley Park is in this matchup. I think nukes just honestly don't do enough, which is surprising because they are the nukes. But going for the cheaper play of the U-boat off of German research to discard 2 and destroy a unit, I think is just by far the greatest tempo play, and I think at this point you need tempo more than value. So here what I'm thinking about is I can do Partisans Ural. Like obviously I can do that. Or I can save the Partisans Ural for a potential 272nd. And instead do trade the T60 into the KV, play the Type 90 or the T34, hit the KV sickle. Like I can kill the KV with just what's on board plus sickle, and save Partisans Ural. And for example, seeing ISU in hand, if you just place ISU, I can do Partisans sickle on ISU to get a the 10k Stalin. Actually, I can do Mare Nostrum instead of sickle. That's even better. I didn't even think about that. So here, easy ISU turn. Kills 2 units, including a Mare Nostrum unit. What is the benefit of playing 52k? Okay, actually, you have double Sky Barons in hand, so this is essentially just an artillery. That it's correct to play it for sure. So I actually draw the Lion for a day. I know ISU is off of Heroes, so I could just Lion for a day. The ISU would go on with my life. But Partisans Ural Factories for a Stalin seems pretty good. Move up. Ural, get the Stalin. He, of course, just researches. Maybe even research second artillery. Okay, actually, definitely research second artillery. I don't really understand why he doesn't play the artillery. Here the question is, what would I rather do? Hit him in the face for 8 or kill an artillery? And shockingly, the answer is actually I would much rather kill the artillery. Like, I'm not going to race him down. I'm going to grind him out. Here, pass. And this, because he had the 6k research, it is a consideration that maybe I should have just Lion for a day. The ISU rather than going for the Partisans Ural. Because it's essentially 2 cards versus 1 card. The difference is this also forces out the research. So now we see what will it hit. Mobile defense, very good outcome for me. Buy the sword, very bad outcome for me. And play the 52k. Actually chooses to pass. I don't understand this whatsoever. Like I don't really know what he's waiting for. His deck doesn't have a ton of guards. Actually, his deck might have 0 guards left in it, other than Naval Brigade. So, and my deck does not have a ton of Blitz units. I actually think playing First Rifles here is a mistake because he has 8 cards in hand, none of which he has played. So if I just don't play anything, he might, like, he's forced to play, and if his entire hand is reactive orders, he just can't do anything. Whereas if I play First Rifles and he has, like, Partisans Ural Factories, that's very bad. So, just pass again. I'm 32 health. A 2-drop is not that much of a worry. Here he has Siberian Factories. Or Siberian Transfer, sorry. Red Banner. But I've passed 6 turns in a row, so there's a very good chance that I have removal in hand, Lion for a day, second Partisans, something like that. And also you might be, I think, if I remember correctly, he doesn't run Ural Factories, but he does run Red Banner, so I think he's saving Red Banner for Partisans. So here, I would just play out the artillery. Like, I think he should have played out the artillery a while ago, but I'm still not entirely sure why he didn't, and why he also didn't play it out the turn before. Like, I don't have Blitz tanks in my deck other than the T-34, which I don't have. Parade first, see what I get. I now have 3 Dechimas in my hand, and I know his deck is very low on resources. I also know Dechima can't be punished by partisans, so just throw out Dechima. There's also, I could have played, I had 1 credit left over, so I could have done Sickle on the 845th to stop the ambush, or I could have done Engineers. The reason I didn't is because he has Sudden Strikes and Flame Panthers in his deck, so Engineers just dies instantly. And if I Sickle, I mean, I don't really care if he hits my Dechima for 2. And Sickle plus Naval Brigade, I still have Naval Brigade in my deck. So I think it's fine just playing slow. Okay, he does want Train in his deck, that's interesting. So here, second Dechima coming out on the Train. And I find a second Partisans. So I did Partisans Ural earlier in the game, I now have second Partisans Banner. I'm considering doing Partisans Banner on the Train, but the reason I don't do that is, again, the only way he can come back in this game is if he somehow gets just a crazy threat. Like, if he does his own Partisans Banner into a 272nd or something like that. So, it's just better for me to keep back the more efficient and more situational removal, and just throw out a Dechima. Kill the Train. I have a second Dechima in hand, I have Lion for a Day in hand. I think there's no reason to play out Engineers here. Yeah, I don't even think there's a reason to Sickle here. Fatigue might come into effect. I'm also saving Sickle for Naval Brigade. Sudden strikes his own unit. That, I think I would just, well, like, at this point he's entirely lost the game. I don't see how he can win. So the question is, what do you do in a situation where you can't win? Or you see zero way on how to win? Could do Root Out. Winter Offensive. Like, Winter Offensive, you get the heal for 4, so you essentially don't take damage. You kill both Dechimas. Problem is you have no follow-up. I think his best chance at winning is probably going for the Siberian Transfer Red Banner now, and just hoping I don't have Lion for a Day or second Partisans. Because I don't think you can sacrifice your units currently on board and hope to win. Goes for Sudden Strike Winter Offensive. So, essentially the same thing, but he gets a Sudden Strike out of his hand to make room for these Plains of Night Witches. Here, I just pass. Like, with 2 Lion for a Day's Dechima, I don't think, like, I think I can play a First Rifles at this point. Like, I don't think I need to keep passing. But at the same time, just, I can't lose the way I am playing. I'm just not winning as quickly as I could. So here, he only has 4 playable cards. The Night Witches, which would only give him 1 plan. He could do Siberian Transfer, which opens up Red Banner. He could do Siberian Transfer, move up, kill the First Rifles, Red Banner, Night Witches for all 3 planes, and then put 1 onto the board. I think that's your best shot at winning. Like, he would still immediately lose, no matter what he gets, but I think that is your best shot at winning. This only gives him 2 planes. Here, I can probably just throw out the engineers at this point. Like, I need space on board. Heroes first. Here I think I actually had like much bigger options. I think I actually was offered a 272nd. But what I end up taking is the T28. And the reason I do that is if I take the 272nd, it risks him doing Partisans, Red Banner to get 2 Stalins. Which at the moment I could react to, but it's just unnecessary. Like giving him unnecessary advantage or potential. Whereas if I just go for the T28, make sure I don't lose on fatigue, it doesn't really do anything for him. Like he could confusion it, but the pincer effect gets lost. Here, I don't think I should play engineers. I again don't think it matters, but I don't think I should. Yep, don't play engineers. Smart play. Force him to continue having that sudden strike in hand. So I think he was hoping that the bug still existed where the T28 goes into his deck. Because that was formerly a bug and a bug that actually decided the outcome of an OCC game almost a year ago now. But fortunately, that bug has been fixed, and he is now stuck in this situation. He can do From the People Tactical Strike to fully remove the first rifles. Here, I think I should do Engineers T60. Engineers is probably just going to die to Sudden Strike, but it frees up room in my hand for the T34 off the T60 plus the card I draw. Actually, go for Dechima here. That's very interesting. This is likely because I've seen he has 8 cards left in deck. I've likely looked at every single card in his deck, and he probably only has like 1 or 2 units left in his deck, which is why I go for Dechima. Without seeing like exactly what cards are in his deck, I can't say if this is a bad play or not. It certainly is a strange looking play. I guess the idea is to just remove his units. Like, if I remove every single one of his units, I will eventually win. And if he only has 1 unit left in deck, I think Dechima here is perfectly fine. Here, he can errata for draw, but that puts him deeper. He still has 1 Partisans in his deck, I believe. Gets a Burning Sky. This is very, very sad. And just pass. Like, at this point, his idea to win is Partisans on the T60, trade Banner, and then try to win with the Soviet 6-drop plus the T34. I can just do Engineers, move up, trade. Move up. Like, move up both units. Trade with the errata. Like, double line for a day, Sickle Naval Brigade, Partisans, Red Banner. I am able to deal with 4 threats, like 4 to 5 threats, and he has none left in his deck. So, Sudden Strike comes out, making room in his hand. Draws the Engineers. He still hasn't found his 1 Partisans yet. It's very sad. Yeah, I mean, you can just play your Engineers. It doesn't matter. I don't really have an easy way of killing this. You do not have that many units left in your deck that are going to heal off of this anyways. Here, I think I should just, like, hit face for 4 and pass. Hit face for 4 and play Fiat is fine. Like, the Fiat dies instantly. But at this point, with how few cards left in his deck, it's very unlikely I'm going to actually hard lock his hand out. So, if I play Fiat and he plays Burning Sky immediately, that's fine. If he plays Sky Barons, that's actually even better because fatigue is now a problem. But again, I didn't have to play Fiat here. The reason I did play Fiat here is because if he does from the people on my T60, I'm going to mill the next card in my hand. And of course, Fiat is probably worse than an average card in my deck. Here, he just has to keep passing and win off of Partisans. I mean, if he looks at what's left in my deck, he knows that that's not possible, but... Here, 52k, hit face for 4. Yep. Again, just keeping this 7-card hand to make sure I'm out of range of being milled. Probably just from the people on the artillery now. You could do Sickle from the people on Decima to set up Partisans kill the artillery. But this is also Sickle plus Naval Brigade. Looks like Partisans is like bottom 3, something like that. I think your best chance at winning is probably Sickle from the people on Decima, and into next turn Partisans T60 kill the artillery, Red Banner T60. From the people on T60, I think this is wrong. Like, he can't win regardless, but I think even then this is wrong. Because you need the tank on your side. You need to get every single little bit of value you possibly can. And not only does this take away your potential value while giving it to me, this also just puts, like, it lets me put him to 11. Like, it gives me a clock. He realizes that he needs to greed out harder. Like, he needs something better than just a random Soviet 7-drop. So he goes for Sickle Naval Brigade. Line for a Day on Naval Brigade. I know that's the last card in his deck that Line for a Day targets. It's also the cheapest removal option. And here, just Decima, trade with the Chika. Alternatively, KV, go face. I actually like playing it slow here and just killing the Chika. Potentially even playing T60. He's now out of cards in deck. He has 7 cards in hand, 4 draw him. So here, at this point, he just realizes he can't win. Like, even if he gets the craziest Partisans Red Banner. Like, actually, that's not true. The only way he wins is if I play 272nd. He can do Partisans Red Banner for 2 Stalins, and I have no, like, all my removal is in the bottom, like, 3 cards of my deck. That's the only way he wins. Of course, now he can't even win doing that, but it doesn't matter. I got an ISU. He has no removal. And surrenders. And with that, I go up 2-1 over Kato. And if we take a look at the bracket, the 2 games played off stream saw, actually, Kolbasnik and No One didn't play. No One didn't show up to the tournament. Not sure what was going on there, but Kolbasnik gets to the next round. So it's myself versus Kolbasnik. And then John PX beat Vinny 2-0 with John PX advancing to the next round. And then we have Dion versus Tree Pipit.